Have you ever stopped to think what really makes successful entrepreneurs tick? I mean, is it just pure genius or maybe something else, something that kind of goes against everything we hear in traditional business advice? Well, today, that's exactly what we're digging into. We're on a mission here to unpack some, well, pretty surprising insights about the entrepreneurial mindset. We're drawing a lot from this really fascinating TED Talk by John Mullins. Our goal is to pull out those core ideas, the nuggets that really challenge how things are usually done, and maybe give you a bit of a shortcut to understanding what fuels that kind of breakthrough success.
Yeah, and the source material, Mullen's work, it talks about these six counter-conventional mindsets, and these aren't small changes. They
Hmm.
actively push back against the standard best practices you see in big companies, even the stuff taught in business schools about like strategy, marketing, how you handle risk. And when we say mindset, what we mean is really an attitude or maybe a habit, a sort of mental default that shapes how you react when an opportunity pops up. These are ways of thinking that are, frankly, pretty different from the norm in established business.
That's a really good way to put it, mental default. Okay, so let's dive into the first one then. Mullins calls it "Yes, we can," which, as you said, just flies right in the face of that old saying, stick to our knitting.
Yeah.
Maybe just remind us, what's that typical stick to your knitting idea this challenges, especially in those bigger companies?
Right. So the standard corporate playbook says figure out your core competencies, what you're really good at, pour investment into that, and honestly just say no to stuff that falls outside that box. But then you get someone like Arnold Correa from Atmo Digital down in Brazil. He'd already sort of reinvented his event management business twice, completely changed it. Then a customer asks him, hey, can you broadcast training via satellite to 260 stores all across Brazil? Now, Arnold knew, like, nothing about satellites, and this was way outside his usual region, but what did he say? Yes, we could do that. Simple as that, and then he went and figured it out.
Wow, that takes some guts.
Yeah.
Did that yes attitude open more doors for him? Like, was there another big leap after that?
Oh, absolutely. Fast forward a few years, another customer, this time Walmart, asks, can you put TV screens on our store floors for advertising? Again, totally new territory for him. And Arnold's response, predictably, maybe, yes, we can do that. I mean, the guy fundamentally reshaped his business 4 different times over the years, all because he kept saying yes when customers asked for things that were, way outside what he originally did.
Okay, so the real takeaway isn't just blindly saying yes, right? It's more about spotting an opportunity when a customer asks you to solve a problem, even if it's something you haven't tackled before. But hang on, wouldn't a lot of business folks argue that saying yes all the time just spreads you too thin? You risk losing focus on what you're actually good at? How does this mindset avoid that?
That's a fair point. I think it's less about saying yes to literally everything and more about seeing a real customer problem that you could potentially solve. Even if it means learning new stuff, new capabilities. Correa wasn't just being agreeable. He was identifying unmet needs and then finding the way to meet them.
Right, which actually leads us perfectly to the second mindset. Problem first, not product first logic. This feels like a direct contrast to what we see from big companies a lot of the time. They constant focus on slightly different versions of the same product, like new and improved laundry detergent, or, gosh, how many versions of Coca-Cola are there now? Classic, diet, zero, cherry, vanilla. Is that really innovation?
Exactly. For entrepreneurs, real innovation often isn't about tweaking a product line. It's about finding really deep-seated problems. Take Jonathan Thorne. He developed this new silver nickel alloy. But the key step was identifying a serious problem in medicine. Surgical forceps sticking to human tissue during really delicate operations. Imagine like a plastic surgeon doing those final tiny touches on a facelift and the instrument sticks. That causes frustration, makes the job longer. Maybe the result isn't quite perfect. Thorne saw that and thought, okay, that's a problem I can solve with this alloy.
And he didn't stop with just plastic surgeons, did he? I already found an even bigger need elsewhere.
That's right. The business with plastic surgeons wasn't growing as fast as he'd hoped. So he started asking, okay, is there another type of surgeon who has an even bigger sticking problem? And he found neurosurgeons. For them, especially in brain and spine surgery, sticking forceps wasn't just frustrating. It could have really critical consequences for the patient, a much higher stakes problem.
Ah, got it. So the core idea here is that real entrepreneurial wins often come from getting obsessed with finding and solving a specific crucial customer problem, not just making a cool product and then hoping someone buys it. You're like a problem detective first.
Precisely. Problem detective. I like that.
Okay, let's shift to mindset number 3. Think narrow, not broad. Now, this one really pushes back against that corporate mantra, the one that says you need huge target markets to make any real impact or move the needle. Small niches, often just dismissed.
Yeah, and the founding story of Nike is, well, a perfect example. We see them as this global giant now, right?
Yeah.
But think back. Phil Knight, he was a distance runner. Bill Bowerman was his coach. They spotted a very, very specific problem for a tiny market segment. See, running shoes back then, they were built for sprinters, running on smooth, flat tracks. But distance runners like Knight, they were out on rough country paths, hitting rocks, roots, constantly getting sprained ankles, shin splints. It was a real pain point.
So their solution wasn't for all runners. It was incredibly targeted. They deliberately built shoes just for elite distance runners, with specific things like better side-to-side stability, wider soles, more cushioning, and lighter weight, all to help with race times and prevent those injuries.
Yeah.
Very specific fixes for a specific group.
Exactly. And what's so interesting is that by mastering that really narrow market, figuring out design, learning how to import shoes from Asia, getting those top runners to actually wear them, Nike built the foundation. Then they could take that same think narrow approach and apply it to other specific sports niches, like tennis. Remember John McEnroe?
Oh, yeah. And then basketball with Michael Jordan. They conquered the whole athletic footwear world, but it started super, super narrow.
It's amazing. Market domination, starting with a laser focus on one specific painful problem. They literally built an empire one sprained ankle at a time. Kind of ironic, isn't it?
It really is.
Okay, moving on. Our fourth counter-conventional mindset. Asking for the cash and riding the float. This one feels different. You look at big companies, often swimming in cash, right?
Yeah,
And sometimes they prioritize, say, stock buybacks or dividends over maybe crucial R&D. Mullins points out that sometimes this just, well, doesn't feel right.
Yeah, for entrepreneurs, especially starting out, cash isn't just important, it's everything. It's the absolute lifeblood. And Elon Musk with Tesla, that's a really powerful example here. Their big plan was always progressive. Start high-end with a sports car, then move towards mass market cars. But Musk's a really clever move, selling the cars before they were even built.
That sounds ambitious. How much money we're talking about up front? A significant amount. Get this. Tesla sold the first 100 Roadsters for $100,000 each. That's $10 million right there. Cash on the barrelhead, as they say, before the first car was even finished.
Wow. $10 million up front.
Yeah. And that strategy didn't stop. Think about the Model 3 later on. Nearly 500,000 people put down a $100 deposit each. Do the math, that's almost $500 million in cash. Money they could use for engineering, for tooling up the factory, all before production really kicked off. That business model, getting customers to pay first, effectively let them ride the float. It provided absolutely vital cash for growth without giving up equity early on.
So the key insight isn't just about raising money. It's about finding creative ways to get your customers to fund your growth, leveraging their commitment directly into working capital. Very smart.
Very smart indeed.
Okay, that tees up mindset number 5 nicely. Beg, borrow, but please, please don't steal. This feels like a big leap from traditional business school finance, doesn't it? Where you're taught to meticulously analyze the return on investment, the ROI, for every single project before you even think about starting it.
Absolutely. And the story of Tristram and Rebecca Mayhew, the founders of GoApe, the Treetop Adventure courses in the UK, it illustrates this perfectly. They weren't getting bogged down in complex ROI spreadsheets. Instead, they asked a really simple, almost childlike question. Where can we get some trees?
Love that. And they found a pretty clever answer, didn't they?
They really did. Turns out the UK Forestry Commission had trees galore, obviously, and they were actually keen to get more visitors onto their land. So the Mayhews managed to strike a deal, a 25-year exclusive contract for GoApe to build and operate on Forestry Commission property. They started with just 5 locations to prove the concept worked.
So they didn't need to buy the land or probably even build parking lots or restrooms.
Exactly. GoApe basically succeeded by borrowing the biggest assets they needed. The trees, the land, the existing facilities. All they had to provide was their specialized equipment, the kit on the trees, as they put it. That model let them scale much faster and with way less capital than if they'd had to buy everything. And now, there are over 30 GoApe sites in the UK, and they've expanded to the US too.
It's like the ultimate bootstrapping, but with forests. The nugget here seems to be that resourceful entrepreneurs don't always need to own assets. They find clever ways to leverage what already exists, minimizing their own cash burn. It's not always about having money in the bank. Sometimes it's about access.
Precisely. Access over ownership.
Which brings us to our final mindset, number 6. Don't ask permission. Now, this is a stark contrast to the corporate world, right, where getting any new initiative off the ground means navigating this maze of lawyers, compliance, regulations. And the answer is often no, or at least not yet.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? Think about Travis Kalanick and Garrett Camp when they were starting Uber. Would it have been sensible for them to go to the San Francisco city regulators and ask, "Excuse me, can we start a massive taxi company, but without actually owning any taxis?"
Uh-huh. Yep. Probably not the best opening line.
Right. The answer would almost certainly have been a flat no. It was a direct threat to the established taxi industry and its rules.
So the underlying principle is sometimes you just have to start. Entrepreneurs often just, well, get on with it, especially when the rules are a bit fuzzy or haven't quite caught up with what technology makes possible. Now, obviously, Uber's journey involved a lot of friction and controversy. We should acknowledge that. But focusing just on this mindset, it's about that bias towards action rather than waiting for explicit approval that often unlocks something completely new.
That's the essence of it. Sometimes making progress means you have to disrupt things by simply beginning. You figure out the details, navigate the obstacles, and adapt as you move forward.
That's a really interesting point. But you could argue, couldn't you, that this don't ask permission approach can create huge headaches later on? Friction with regulators, legal battles. How do entrepreneurs manage that tension? Is it just hoping for the best?
It's definitely a challenge, no doubt. It requires, I think, a mix of boldness and being ready to adapt quickly. They often operate in that gray area, pushing boundaries, and then they have to react and adjust as the regulations evolve or catch up. It's a calculated risk for sure. So, okay, just to quickly recap those 6 powerful counter-conventional mindsets we've talked through. First, yes, we can. Second, problem first, not product first, logic. Third, think narrow, not broad. Fourth, asking for the cash and riding the float. Fifth, beg, borrow, but please don't steal. And finally, number 6, don't ask permission.
Okay, so now, thinking about you, our listener, here are some really potent questions that Mullins raises, things we hope you'll really mull over. First, which of these mindsets do you think you already use? Maybe without even putting a name to it. Second, which of the others could you consciously try to learn and develop in yourself? And maybe think about this too. Could you teach one of these approaches to someone you work with? Someone who's maybe stuck on a challenge? And perhaps most importantly, is there a specific challenge you're facing right now where applying one, or maybe a couple, of these mindsets could help you break through whatever's blocking you?
Yeah, really take a moment to reflect on that. Just imagine how adopting even one of these break the rules ways of thinking might help you tackle a problem differently, maybe make a real, tangible impact, whether it's in your job or just your own life.
Absolutely, because at the end of the day, these insights, they aren't just for people who call themselves entrepreneurs in that traditional startup sense. They're really for anyone who's trying to innovate, anyone trying to solve tricky problems, maybe even, change their little corner of the world. So keep that curiosity going, keep digging deep, and see how you can put these powerful ideas to work.